Welcome to Podium Time, the podcast for conductors and students. Hello and welcome to Podium Time, the podcast for conductors and students. My name is Jeremy D. Cuevas. I'm a conductor in the Denver area, and today I'll be your host into our deep dive into batons with Phil Aguglia of PaGu Batons. Now, even if you're not in the market for a baton, I suggest that you stick around because we're going to be talking about a bunch of interesting things in this interview and a lot of ideas about your baton that you've probably never thought of before. So after being asked to make a custom baton for JoAnn Falletta, Phil set out to survey hundreds of conductors and try to figure out what it was that made conductors pick the batons that they picked. He studied and developed a system of bulbs, lengths, weights, all these things, and set out to make sure that conductors could get a baton that's comfortable and that would serve all of the many jobs that we have to do. Today we're talking with him about what he learned from surveying those 400 conductors, the process of designing JoAnn Falletta's custom signature series batons, how different materials and lengths make a huge effect on just about every aspect of a baton, and the special baton that he made for the 2020 Oscars. Now, if you'd like a new baton, a baton case, a podium pencil, or a gift for a great conductor in your life, head over to PaGuBatons.com to check out Phil's shop and his blog, and use the promo code PodiumTime with no space to get 20% off of your first order. This podcast episode is being presented as a video as well as audio because near the end of the episode, in about the last 15 minutes, Phil brings out some of his products on PaGu and walks us through some of them, some of the changes they've gone through. Along with that, just a warning that my co-host Luke and I sat down at this interview not expecting it to be a video interview, so you'll notice that we are in our regular audio interview places and not dressed in a button-down or standing in front of music pictures with light coming from the side. So just ignore these things and the video quality on those. Focus on the audio and the content of the interview. You can find all of our podcast episodes at podiumtimepod.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at podiumtimepod, and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/podiumtimepod. On Patreon, you can support the podcast and get some fun behind-the-scenes features, like all the outtakes I had to do getting this video finally recorded. I think this is the take. So, links for everything are in the description of this video, but for now, let's get to the interview with Phil Aguglia of PaGu Batons. Well, let's talk about batons and other things. Phil, we're so happy to have you on the podcast today. Would you give us a quick, just a brief overview of who you are and what you do?
Sure. And thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Especially since there's not a whole lot else going on right now. So I'm a full-time high school band director. I teach actually 8 through 12. In my career, I've been in 4 different school districts, and I've taught everything from 4th grade through 12th grade in rural, urban, suburban settings. And but in 2007, I started to play around with a lathe a little bit and started turning batons. And just the journey went on from there. It was through that experiment that the Buffalo Philharmonic asked me to make the 10th year anniversary batons for JoAnn Falletta. And I said no many times, and they kept asking. Persisting that she would really appreciate a local craftsman doing this for a gift. And so I did that, and that story's been told a bunch of times, but that was the kind of launching pad when JoAnn reached out to me a couple months later and said how much she really enjoyed my batons and wanted to know more about me. And then I invited her to be my first signature artist. And at that point, she said, "Well, what does that mean?" I said, "I don't know. Let's figure it out together." And she said, "Fun, let's do it."
Yeah.
And so, from there, it became all right. So I'm making a product, and I'm a conductor. I'm on the podium 3-4 hours a day. What is it that I need? what's next? Okay, a name. Jokingly, I came up with PaGu, which was a combination of my first and last name. The P for Phil, and the AGU is in the first three letters of my last name. And even my mother still can't figure that out. It's and at that point, it was PaGu 430 brand. So there are people that are floating around out there who have early batons that are labeled PaGu 430. And the reason why is because I started making them at 4:30 in the morning because I had a puppy that was getting me up, and that was the daily routine. We've since then moved to 3:30, and during the busy season this year, for the first time, I was at 2:30. Oh. So it's been a real challenge to keep up. Although the COVID virus has definitely slowed things down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Not stopped, but slowed down quite a bit. And and just as my personality is one of a person who really likes to understand, dissect, analyze things, and so I wanted to find out why conductors choose what they choose. What is it about one handle that's different than another handle? The length of the shaft, the thickness of the shaft, the color of the shaft. What are all these ingredients that go into making a baton? What's the difference between a natural wood, a carbon fiber, a fiberglass? Why are all these different things good, bad, or otherwise? Why do certain people choose them? And so I did a lot of research. I surveyed 400 conductors to find out, why. Here, I make you a bunch of batons. I'll measure your arm and your hand, and I want you to close your eyes and tell me which one feels most comfortable. And I kept a journal of the results, and most of the time people found that a baton handle that was about the shape of their thumb was most comfortable. I like this one best. If I'm looking at this baton, I would not have picked it because it doesn't look like mine, but this one feels best. Okay, that's a starting point. What about the length of the shaft? Turns out that most people prefer a shaft that's about the length of their forearm at a 90-degree angle from the elbow to the middle of their palm, or to the base of their bottom knuckle, or the base of the knuckles. And depending on the size of the group that they conduct, JoAnn, for example, she's petite, so she's about 5'2" maybe, and she said that if I have a baton that's as long as my forearm, the percussionists will never see this thick. Yeah. So so we add an inch for groups that are 70 or larger, and for chamber groups 40 or smaller, we subtract an inch. Okay. Choral conductors in general subtract an inch from their forearm length because they like to feel more intimately connected to the ensemble, more organically related to their hand to the ensemble. So that there's just all these little things about the finer points that most people don't want to consider. And when you go onto my website, when you're on PaGuBatons.com, you're looking at, I'm asking you to think about these things. So when you go, that's a pretty handle. And then I'll ask you, okay, so if you like that handle, what kind of wood do you want it in? Yeah. What color? And then what kind of stick do you want? A white or a natural shaft? And how long is your forearm? People don't normally have to measure their forearm. And there's other fitting systems that have been out in the industry for a long time that someone else came up with. And so immediately I'll see people react and want to measure something differently than I'm doing it. And the measurements are subtly, they're a little bit different. And I know where they're going. I know where it's coming from. And I'll say, well, will you, if we're in person, I'll say, will you allow me to fit you my way? And after we do that versus what they're used to, they usually find out that my system is a little bit better, a little more accurate to what they need. Save for somebody who's a much more veteran conductor, someone who's been in the business for a long time. I know what I like what I know. Thank you very much. I'll do my own thing. And that's perfectly understandable. If you've been driving the same kind of car for a long time and someone says, hey, this other one over here is a better car, drive it. No, thanks. I like mine. It rides perfect. Yeah. I get it. I'm not out to change the world. I'm out to help guide people who are not necessarily dead set on this is the right way for me. I'm more interested in giving you something that's comfortable and is going to work for you without hurting you.
Yeah.
And when I say hurting you, I've seen people wielding baseball bats, or toothpicks, or and you get those beautiful looking batons with a fiberglass shaft, and you're like, oh, this is great, until you knock it on your stand a few times and loosen those fibers, and then you get 100 slivers in between your fingers.
Yeah.
And I think many of us are victim to that, right?
Yeah.
That's why I don't use fiberglass. It's nothing against the people who make batons from those fishing poles. It's just that, and that's really where they come from, is the tips of fishing rods. And there's nothing against that. It's just that for me personally, I just can't see myself sending something out there that you have the potential to hurt yourself with, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I made a decision a while ago that I was going to be a wood-only company. I'm not going to mess with the carbon fiber. I do that very rarely for somebody very specifically, but I try and avoid that. It's just not my forte. I'm a wood company. Mm-hmm. You might say, well, but the carbon fiber is more resilient. So why won't you use the carbon fiber? It's going to last. Okay, yes, but it's going to chip and look terrible too. So the paint doesn't typically stick on carbon fiber very well.
Okay.
I've done a whole lot of homework, a whole lot of research, and a whole lot of money spent on products and time invested, and I just have not found the right juju to make that work well. Mm-hmm. And the other component of that is, in order to have a carbon fiber baton shaft that's going to work for you, it has to be half the thickness of a wooden shaft. So now you're compromising visibility. Because when you have to balance weight, people will say, oh, the carbon fiber is so much lighter. No, it's lighter than steel. It's not lighter than wood. So when you talk about a carbon fiber baton, you have to go half the thickness of wood in order to match the weight distribution. Well, okay, that's fine. So we'll go with a thicker carbon fiber shaft. It'll be twice the weight. What's wrong with that? Mm-hmm. Well, now I have to make a handle that's twice the weight. So now I got to find wood that's really heavy. So now you're wielding something that's about, you talk about a couple of grams difference, right? Maybe up to like a half, a few ounces difference. After a while, if you're wielding something, it's like anybody who's a runner who runs, and you could say, well, I can wear these walking shoes and run a mile, or I can wear a pair of running shoes and run a mile. Which one am I going to be more fatigued after running a mile with? Yeah. Same thing with conducting, right? Make it a lighter instrument, less to think about, and just more you just want to make music. You don't want to think about that other stuff. You don't want to be damaged or fatigued and put stress on your shoulders and your elbows and your wrists and your hands from using equipment that's not appropriate for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when you were doing the custom baton for JoAnn, the very first one, was that when you were doing the eyes closed, just feel all these different handles? Is that
the very first one? I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay.
I honestly didn't. It was all really a guess. I had no idea. Myself, batons were kind of sold 12, 14, 16 inch, you go to the store, and so I just made kind of a medium one, a 12, 14 inch baton, and I made two of them. And even with the finish that I was putting on them, just before I made hers, I went to a woodworking store, Rockler Woodworking. They're all over the country, and we have one here in Western New York. So I went into the store and I brought my batons with me that I was making, and they looked like rocks. They were so raw and bad. I mean, I was really a hack. I didn't want to do it. Just something I was playing around with, and the guys laughed at me, and they're like, "Boy, you really don't know anything about woodworking, do you?" I was like, "Well, what do you I could build a house. I mean, I've had a construction company since I was 13." And like, "Yeah, you can tell." So the guys gave me some pointers on how to sand something. Instead of stopping at 220 grit, that's where you're starting at, and you go up to maybe 1,000 grit, 2,000, 2,400, 10,000, depending on how much brilliance you want to get out of that product. And then there's a whole other thing about what finish do you put on it. If you're a woodworker and you Google like what is the best finish to put on any project, you will find a million opinions about all that stuff. Yeah. You'll find people who've done charts and this and that. Every company says that they've got the best product. And for me, I just needed to find what was going to be the best product for PaGu. And it's been a journey to find something that is warm in the hand and is not slippery, but yet has a brilliance to it. But the brilliance is not the main component of it. Yeah. It's really got to be about the ergonomics. How does it feel? And, so as far as JoAnn, so it was after she got the accidentally worked well for her baton. Then, she called me, and then I met with her, and, that was interesting. She's such an important figure. She has a number of people that work around her, for her, that help her get through her numerous appointments every hour, keep her schedule running and usher people in and out of her life for brief periods. And to the fact that I was allowed to get into that circle for a few minutes was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I went and met with her and measured up her arm and her hand and stuff. And I said, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to go make you some more batons, and I'd like another meeting with you to see what you like best. She goes, okay, great. So I went home, did the work, and went back and met with her a week or two later, and she had her close her eyes, pick each one up, and tell me what you think. And that was the first of the many of the trial of that survey. Why do conductors pick what they pick? And so then what I would do is go to conferences, like music educator conferences, conducting conferences, and instead of bringing batons that were pre-made, I would bring them handles and sticks separately and assemble them for the client, which I think is still unique to me. Most of the time you go in, because it's just from a pure just efficiency standpoint, it's terribly inefficient. Sometimes it's a 30-minute line of people waiting to get to me, because it's about fitting you, getting it all right, balancing it exactly the way you want it, and then sending you on your way. And then let's get the next person in line. Instead of, here's a bunch of them, you pick them up, buy whichever one you want, which one's the prettiest. Yeah. And so it's a whole different approach to the market. I've been told I've created a new market, or a new way to approach this market, I guess.
Well, absolutely, because most of us just get the Mollard whatever, or that cork that we buy in Conducting 101.
Well, Mollard has a very strong market hold. They're the number one producer of batons, at least in the United States, probably the world.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very successful business model for them. I don't think anybody's getting hurt with those batons, right? It's you pick it up and it's balanced, and okay, great. But that balance point's in one place. And then until you get to the Lancio, that's a different animal. We'll talk about that. But then the Europeans, a lot of those, the King David batons were really kind of they're like the Mollard of Europe. Okay. They're all over the place. So people grew up with those cork batons, now if you talk about cork, you're talking about a handle that has absolutely no weight in it. Yeah. So all the weight is in the stick, and the longer the stick, the more weight there is in the tip. And so a lot of those European conductors grew up in the tradition of a weighted tip. I'll never forget, I got a phone call from a conductor who in Siberia. He was conductor of the Siberian Opera, and he quizzed me. He said, "Tell me where the correct balance point for a baton." He said, "My baton maker, the best baton maker in the world, is no longer with us. So I'm shopping for a new baton maker. Tell me where the ideal placement for the balance point is." And I tried to tell him it's different for everybody. He says, no, there's only one right place. Okay. And his was 11 centimeters forward of the handle, which at that point I'd never heard of before. And then he said, now what's the ideal thickness of the shaft? I said, well, once again, it's personal preference. Mine is 3/16. He said, it's supposed to be 1/4 inch. I said, well, okay, so I'm learning that this is, and then what's the ideal length? Oh, it's once again, that's with us, it's personal. He's like, no, it's got to be 18 inches or however many centimeters it was, and he described how he conducts. He says, when you're conducting a Wagner opera, those things, you can't hold that stick tip up for that long and continue to wave. The tip, the music's in the tip, and it's down. And so it's a whole different technique. So if we're thinking different, about what is your technique, how does that play into this equation? Well, of course, it makes sense for him that would work. And what is your job? If you're doing jingles, it's one thing. If you're doing movie scores, it's another. If you're doing high school or band, it's different than elementary band versus a Wagnerian opera, right? So every job has a tool. And so what I try and do is provide the tools for you to do your job without saying, this is there's only one right way to do it.
Yeah.
Balance point where the handle meets the shaft. That's the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've narrowed it down to 5 balance points.
Yeah.
So that where the shaft meets the handle is what I call basic fulcrum. And if you go out about 1/4 of an inch, I call that basic tip weight. If you go out about an inch, I call that tension free. Some people have referred to that as a German grip, except I've never met a German person who agrees. So that's true. Everybody used to call it the German grip. The German grip. Here's a whole group of Germans. I'm going to talk to them about this. No. Mythology. We're all subject to it. And then if you have your balance point back, if the handle's heavier than the stick, then you're going to have the balance point, I call it, behind the collar. So just about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch behind where the shaft meets the handle. And and that's where you've got your, like, the Lancio is kind of in that Mallard metal handle one. Okay. The weight's more in the tip on that, or in the handle of that. And then if the handle's just really heavy and there's no balance point at all, I call it palm weighted, because all the weight of that handle is in your palm. And then when somebody calls and says, I want a lightweight baton, that's a loaded question. What do you mean? So then we have to go through and do some exercises. Okay, so take your favorite baton, and what I want you to do is get a piece of tape and tape a paper clip to the tip. Is it better or worse? Okay, now, or take a 1/4, tape it to the back of the butt end of your handle. Is it better or worse? Now we can talk. Now we can have a conversation about what is lightweight, and where do you like your weight distribution? Because most people don't think about it. They just grab it, and unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, most of us gravitate to what we were told in college, right? And there are some college directors that are very finicky about getting you the right baton for you, and they'll go to great lengths to bring somebody like me into the equation to help them. And then there's other college people that are like, everybody in the class gets gets a 12-inch baton, and it doesn't matter if you're 7 foot tall or 3 feet tall, you're all getting the same thing, and you're all going to get the same balance point. Or just go to the bookstore and pick out whatever they have, come back, and I'll teach you how to. There's all these different approaches, right? But you're conditioned based on what that professor. I don't think a lot of professors appreciate how important their input is to those young conductors. And they're setting them up for a lifelong of either pain, struggle, or success. Yeah. And that's, I try really hard to have those conversations. Some people don't want to hear it, and others are like all in, like, yes, I want you to fit my students now, because I get what you're saying. And, and even with my system, right, it might not always be 100%. So I offer a 30-day exchange policy. So if the kids, whoever, it doesn't matter who it is, a student or an adult, you get the baton and it just isn't right for you, we'll just return it. We'll get you another one. Let's find the right one for you. I'm not looking to sell you 100 of them. You only need one, maybe two, 2 different colored shafts for the different environments. I guess I talk a lot. I haven't given you too much opportunity to ask questions.
I love that you.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, because these are not things we think of. I mean, especially the balance point of the I was about to say of the bow, of the baton is, we usually just get whatever we get, and that's that. I was so excited when I met you to try out these other ones, because I'd only ever used whatever I'd gotten. That was the only balance style that I knew. And then so when I did my little fitting with you, I tried all the handles. I found one that I liked, and then what I loved was that you gave me the balsa wood, and just had me adjust it in and out and try it and find what was comfortable. And I wanted to be fancy, and I wanted to have a different grip than what I'd usually been doing. But I tried all of them, and then I gave it to you, and you said, "Oh yeah, so that's just the basic fulcrum." And I was so happy to be able to try it out without knowing what I was doing, find what was actually most comfortable, and then now I know that's that.
Yeah, there, it's interesting, right? How we grip that little thing can have. Some of us are very susceptible to hand tension and arm problems and all kinds of stuff, right? Some of us aren't. It doesn't matter what you hold and how you hold it. And it's like shoes. Like some people can go out and buy 50 pairs of shoes and wear all of them and enjoy them. Some people need to buy special ones because they're the only ones that make their back not hurt and their feet okay. I'm kind of like the special shoe store. But I try and keep my prices more in line with regular shoes.
Yeah. So, did you ever figure out what signature artist means?
Yeah. So for me, a signature artist is somebody whose name recognition is someone I respect for their name recognition, and who is so discriminating in their desire to have the baton just so for them.
Yeah.
And it's taken a lot of work between myself and the client to get to a place where they feel like, wow, I love this and I want to keep using this forever. Now that was kind of how I started the process of the signature artist. And then I had to stop because then I had people emailing me and calling me and how can I be a signature artist? Or, oh, my boyfriend's a conductor and I want him to be a signature artist. Well, it doesn't really. There's more involved, because it being a signature artist means we got to build a whole web page for you, build a signature line, have you sign your signature a dozen times on a piece of paper so we can get a good laser transfer of that signature so it's going to look good on the baton. And for the signature artists, they don't get a lot out of it. They get free batons as long as they're with me, for themselves, and then they get a large discount on extra products that we have. But that's it. It's not like they're making any money off of what I'm selling.
Yeah. And
to be frank, the lowest volume batons I sell are the signature models, because because those are made for somebody else.
Yeah.
Just because it's not like the Michael Jordan Nike line. Nobody's buying a size 17 shoe, unless it fits you. Like they'll make that shoe in all these different sizes and call it the Jordan, right? For me, that handle is specific to their hand. The thing you can change is the wood color and the balance point, but other than that, the length. But the handle is meant for their hand. I think that the more important role a signature artist plays in our company is it gives it credibility and cachet. When you look at our website and you say, oh, Noon uses the PaGu Batons, or JoAnn Falletta uses it, Sean O'Laughlin, etc. That's somebody I recognize. But that usually has very little to do with sales.
Okay. Could you tell us about the Oscars?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Yeah. I saw that a few months ago.
That was an interesting thing. Emer is one of our signature artists, and I didn't her contributions to the music world have been in the video gaming platform for the most part early on. When I first met her through a phone call, she called and wanted to become a signature artist, and that was one of the most exhilarating and exciting conversations I've had ever. Just the wealth of information that she had, and the I don't know, it was just a great conversation. And then fast forward to this year, I get an email from her husband telling me, heads up, Emer's going to be conducting at the Oscars. She'll be the first female conductor. Just want to give you a heads up because it may turn your life around. Okay. And it was a hush thing. And then about 3 days later, it was announced online that she was going to be conducting there. And, he was right. It certainly provided us with an awful lot of media attention. But I was interviewed by our 3 local news stations plus our NPR affiliate. And the reporter from the NPR affiliate said that was like the number one story they had in a year, like in terms of shares, likes, and engagement, I guess is what you call it.
Yeah.
Which blew my mind away. But based on the comments that I was reading online, people just were fascinated by this type of conversation that we're having now about, what is this little stick made of? What's the magic wand? It's like having a conversation with Ollivander. Wow, there's really a feather inside that, and like, was the bird alive still? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so, being able to make what I did for the Oscars is I made Emer a special edition baton and case that she'll have as a commemorative thing for herself forever.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know if she actually used that baton on the performance. My assumption is yes.
I would, yeah.
She said, would you be able to do one for Ricky Minor while you're at it? So I did two of them and engraved Ricky's name on his case too. It was a pretty cool experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about the design? Because I love what you did with it.
Yeah. We played around. I had a very short window of time.
Yeah.
I had like 4 or 5 days to get this together. And I work with I'm a sole proprietor. I work all by myself, but all my laser engraving is done by another gentleman who owns a laser engraved designs company. And then there's another gentleman who makes the wooden cases for me. And so it's coordinating, like, okay, can you have this done in a week? And can we get this design? Here's what I'm envisioning. So the engraving part of it, someone else does. And what we tried is, at first, what I wanted to do was capture the spirit of the Oscars, the red carpet. So I took and I made an ebony baton with a PaGu or red heart blend. So it looked like there was a red carpet on the black background. Okay. And then the silhouette of the Oscar on it. That was a pain in the neck to make. Now, there's a reason for it. The ebony doesn't glue up well. It's got a natural oil in it, so that when you go to glue it with another wood, it's hit or miss. And I was missing a lot. It was like I'd start to turn it on the lathe, and then the pieces of wood would blow apart. And it was really frustrating. But I really wanted to get that red carpet look, and we got a couple of them, and we even like took the statue and then rubbed gold paint over it, and then buffed it out so that the statuette was in gold. So really put a lot of work into the samples for those. And then because the ebony is so heavy, in order to get Emer's batons are 14 and 3/8 inch long with a 3/8 of an inch forward of the handle tip weight. And in order to balance that properly, I had to use a thicker carbon fiber shaft. So I had to get carbon fiber in because the wood was too light. Wood shaft was too light to balance with the ebony. Normally her batons are made out of canary wood and much lighter. So there was a lot of that juggling going around.
Yeah.
And finally, she was able to pick, and she decided, I want just the solid black, no red, which made life a lot easier. And we were using an old file of the Oscar silhouette, which was really complicated. It had the face completely on it. So with the gold, when you rubbed it with the gold, it looked a little bit, it just wasn't beautiful. And then they gave me a new file of the updated Oscar guy. It was really simple silhouette. Looks great with the gold in it. Mm-hmm. So that was the process. Awesome. It's not just about the weight, the length, the balance, and it's also the artistic part of it. And then we have the case. Right? So then you have a beautiful walnut wooden case, and we engraved on it the Oscar silhouette and then the name, Emer Noon and the year, so that there was a real commemorative piece for her.
Yeah. That's just incredible. I loved that story when I heard it a couple months ago.
Well, the beautiful part about that is that, for her being the first female conductor on here, that's really what the big moment is.
Absolutely. Well, and putting so much effort and thought into what can make that even more special.
Right.
Yeah.
We did a similar project for Prince Charles when the Canadian government was having their 150th anniversary. I get a phone call. I'm with my 8-year-old on a Friday afternoon at a carnival, and I get a phone call from the Canadian government saying, can you make a commemorative baton and case for Prince Charles? Huh? I didn't know he was a musician. No, he's not. It turns out that one of our signature artists, Daniel Floyd, was a conductor to the Prince of Wales at one point. Okay. So we have a little bit of a connection there. So then they said they needed it in 4 days to get there. He was coming in because it was going to be given by the conductor of the Royal Philharmonic anyways, that's how it worked out. I made for him a two-tone case with American walnut, Canadian maple, and I made the handle out of Canadian maple, and I used Daniel Floyd's signature model handle, so it was a lot of tie-ins. They wanted HRH, Prince Charles, and I didn't know what HRH meant. I had to go look up His Royal Highness. Just not, we don't usually talk in those terms here.
Yeah.
And we were making the Henry Mancini Plaque award, which was given out to people who had significant contributions to the arts in Los Angeles. And the first recipient was Henry Mancini's wife. So we made, we actually made a replica of Henry Mancini's baton, and in a beautiful case with the engraving from the organization that was giving it out. John Williams presented it to his wife. We got that happened, and one of our plaques was actually given to Dustin Hoffman for a photography award. So we made a special plaque that we normally would give for conductors that was given, or directors, was given to Dustin Hoffman. It was a beautiful thing. My brother-in-law actually made the bulk of that. It was a beautiful piece. There was only a few of those made. So we have those kind of stories.
Yeah, awesome. And then you've got some visuals for us as well, I believe.
Yeah, we talked a lot about different shapes and sizes. One of the biggest things about our company is the flat spot batons, and it all started with this little guy here. I think I'll have to lower this down a little bit, and you might not be able to see things well with the lighting. But when you look at a baton like this, and you see its contour, but when you flip it around, you'll see that there's a flat spot here.
Yeah.
And I call that my flat spot series. There's 6 different flat spot batons that we offer. And that really amounts to 85% of our business. Is when we're live at a conference, it's 90% of the batons we sell are flat spot. Usually when people touch them, they buy them because it's so ergonomically comfortable.
Yeah.
And they're meant to be versatile because your thumb can sit there, or you could rotate it around and your index finger can sit there.
Okay.
Or you can put your finger here, or you can bring it back here. It just depends. You have a lot more options with a flat spot baton than you do with a symmetrical one.
Yeah.
And this is all highlighted. We have videos on the blog section of our website. If you really go on PaGu Baton's website, you'll see that it's really informative. If you go, especially if you go on the blog section, a lot of little short videos to explain the different handles, how to hold them, why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, cases. If you're going to make the baton, you got to have a case, right? It makes sense. And it was our first, back when JoAnn got her first baton, I found an Amish clockmaker, 17-year-old kid, who made for me this. This is a replica of that. And when you open it up, there's 2 chambers inside because we gave her 2 batons.
Yeah.
And so that was the first of our wooden case line, which then morphed into something more like this,
Ooh.
which with these beautiful buckles on them.
Yeah.
And when you open it up, it's more just open, so you can put multiple batons in there.
Okay.
Which,
Yeah.
hence the name multi-baton case.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently we found that we needed to beef this up a little bit. So our newer line of them, if you can see the difference in thickness.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
These will accommodate these larger handled batons like this Andre Ganea model, which is pretty thick.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1 3/8 in diameter. And then when you open these up, they've got a lot more depth.
Yeah.
Or larger baton handles and smaller. What we do is we actually put 2 layers of foam in the inside. You can remove one if you've got a lot of thick batons.
Oh, okay.
You can trim one layer, so it's actually pretty cool. And then the next step for me was, okay, I got wooden cases, and I have smaller wooden cases we call everyday wooden cases. They'll fit 2 batons. And then the next step for me was to go into I wanted something to replace those god awful PVC pipes that kids use in college. So I came up with a single leather case, and now this is our brand new design, and it's so tough to see in this lighting, but this is meant for 1 baton.
Mm-hmm.
And with this new design, we can fit really large handles in here.
Yeah.
And long ones. And I'll give an example. This is the single baton case pre-last week.
Yeah.
When I say pre-last week, I mean there was we started in October redesigning this, and last week is when they finally came in. It's a whole new animal, and they're longer, beefier. And here's something that's really cool. With the old cases, they would only cinch down so far. This is about as far as you could cinch it.
Okay.
So you had all this space in here. Well, with the new cases, now we can go all the way down and really control the top of that baton handle so it's not moving around. Mm-hmm. And with all of the cases, they have a hard, rigid pipe inside, which prevents them from moving at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what protects the baton. The sheath on the outside is the candy.
Yeah.
And then we moved on from that to, well, now let's have something that we could put more than 1 baton in. So now we've got the triple leather baton, which is actually our #1 selling product.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And this is a brand new. I don't know. You can't see it in the video, but we just added new colors like burgundy. I don't know. This is so terrible. I'm sorry. and this is distressed leather.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but nonetheless, we just made them a little bit wider, so it's actually like 1 inch wider than they were up until last week.
Yeah.
And same thing, you can now cinch these things all the way down,
right, yeah, mm-hmm.
which you couldn't before. Hang on 1 second. Somebody says they're heading to my house. No. Oh, no, it's up here. Wait, I'm sorry. As a high school band director, I also deal with fundraising, and we still have fundraisers coming in, even without being in school.
Of course. Fundraising never stops.
No. So anyway, now you've got batons. Now you got the cases to protect them,
mm-hmm.
and then the other thing is now, what else can I design? Oh, a podium pencil. So why don't I come up with a pencil that's so that when you're on the podium, I guess conduct a lot. And one of the things that bugs me is I'm in an auditorium and I'm a pencil guy. I'm writing all over the scores while I'm doing things because I forget. As soon as I flip the page, I forgot what I did. So I have to circle things, make notes so that when I go back, I know what I'm looking for. But the regular thin pencils typically will break. So I found these Carpenter pencils with 2 millimeter lead. I don't know if you can see that. Now compare that with our Composer's pencil, which is a standard 0.7 millimeter lead. Now, can you see the difference between the two?
Yeah.
This bad boy isn't going to break. This is meant for drawing on wood. And even if it does, it has a built-in pencil sharpener in the back. So you just take and you sharpen the pencil that way. It has an eraser, but I've never met a conductor that made a mistake. So it's really kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, I've been describing the Podium Pencils after I saw them at the conference. I've been describing them as it's like a mechanical pencil, but instead of a tiny lead, it's just like a regular pencil lead. That comes in and out.
Yeah. It's really a game changer. When you think about it, because they fit in the pencil pocket on the leather cases. You just go in there, you take it with you, and you don't have to worry about one more thing. One time I was conducting an honor band in a rural community. It had nothing to do with the pencil, but it's that worrying thing, right? And I had forgotten, well, not forgotten. On my phone, I had my tuner and my metronome. All my students are required to have an app or a physical tuner in rehearsal. So I'm conducting this honor band out in a place where there's no cell phone reception. So my tuner didn't work, and nobody in the room had a metronome or a tuner. One of those things where it's a tool for the job, and because I was relying on something else, it wasn't available. Same thing with the stupid pencil, right?
Yeah. Well, and I like to carry a pen. I always carry a pen with me, and I would carry a pencil, but I hate mechanical pencils. And if I just have a regular, number 2 pencil, it doesn't have a little clip on it, so it gets lost in my pocket or it falls somewhere. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We all have our little things, right? There's something about each one of us that makes us unique, and we have our quirks, and I try and satisfy my own quirks with solving the puzzle for myself.
Again, I've told a lot of just regular, not conductors, but performers who are interested in the pencils too. So I've been sending them all over your way. But
that's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. So let's talk. Is there anything else with the Baton Company you'd like to cover?
I think that for me, I just want to hit back to the college aspect.
Yeah.
Having somebody or having a system that identifies what the needs of your students is based on their physiology, I think is an important step. I think having students critically and analyze, like go on a website like mine and watch the videos, go to another Baton site, look at what they're doing, compare for yourself, see, educate yourself. I always say there's no bad batons. There's just a right one for you.
Yeah.
Like shoe companies, there's a lot of good shoes out there. Doesn't mean that they're all right for you. And mine tend to fit a certain market, and if that's going to work for you, then great. And another thing that I do that I think is unique is I offer a 1-year warranty. As far as I know, I don't think anybody else does. So if our batons break or warp within a year, you send it back, I fix it like brand new, it comes back to you. And when I get it back, I always think about my car. When I take my car in for service, I wish it was washed, vacuumed, and if they noticed that there was something else wrong, that they took care of that too. That's really not the world we live in. But for my batons, when they come back to me, I sand them down, I put a whole new finish on it, I make it brand new, so that when it goes back to you, that you've got a brand new instrument. And that's within a year, that's free. And then after that, it's $25. And you think about $25 to have something that you already enjoy. You don't have to re-love it. You don't have to relearn anything about it. Why? It's a small investment. And I'll have people say, "Oh, I'm not going to spend that much money on a baton. Oh, no, my cheapest ones are $32.95, and oh, that's a lot of money. My most expensive are $64.95. Oh, that's a lot of money." Okay, I have to make something for the time I'm putting into it, but I think if you look at the market, we're not that bad.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. I was very pleasantly surprised when I was looking at the prices. I was like, for a custom baton, I mean, you can't beat that.
Custom baton plus the warranty plus the,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you something that's really helped our business is FedEx sat down with me in November or late October. I had a conference call with FedEx, and they said, "We can help your business by changing your shipping methods." And they gave me this beautiful program where I could ship anywhere in the U.S. for $13. That's including my packaging and stuff. So shipping and handling for $13. That changed the game for me, because up until that point, I was sending it to Nebraska for one price, California for another price, and it was always, is it going to be 5 days, 10 days? How long is it going to take to get there? Now it's all 2-day shipping. And they said, if you offer free shipping at a certain point, then you'll increase your volume. So I did that. So you spend $75, you get free shipping. And it's amazing how that's changed my business. Like, we're way up till COVID-19, but we're, but everything was going gangbusters.
Well, if you get a baton and a podium pencil, that's probably over the 75, right?
Yeah, depending on the model.
Yeah.
We're just, since we're in this COVID thing, I just made a whole bunch of tapper sticks, which I usually make to order. But a tapper stick is just basically a 5/16 inch drumstick that I make that allows for those. So for the conductor that has to do this with their baton, I took that out of the equation. Let's use a tapper instead of a baton. Baton's your instrument. I'm not going to tap my trumpet on the stand. I'm not going to bang your violin. Let's tap the tapper stick, put it down, grab your baton, and go.
Yeah.
So I'm lowering the price of these. They're right now like $13, but I just lowered them to $9.95, so that's a fairly inexpensive extra piece you can put you over the top if you need to get to that level of shipping.
Yeah.
Well, and there's no better time to find a new baton than while you're sitting at home.
Yeah, go shopping, go watch all the blog videos, go.
I've still been getting business. It's not like we're not getting orders. It's just that instead of getting like a bunch of orders a day, I'll get one order a day. 2,
Yeah. And is that what's the website?
It's www.PaGuBatons.com. PaGuBatons.com.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alrighty, that's it. Thanks so much for joining us. Head over to PaGuBatons.com, use promo code PodiumTime with no space, and get 20% off your order. Everything's linked in the description below to PaGu Batons, our website, our socials, and our Patreon. Thanks so much for joining us. We release episodes every 2 weeks, and you can find us anywhere you find podcasts at Podium Time.